Good morning, everybody. We are in Genesis 43 today, this week, a little bit late this week. I apologize for that with Thanksgiving and everything. My week kind of got thrown off. But we see in Genesis 43, there's a decision by Joseph's family, Joseph's brothers, to return to Egypt. And they had waited, right, as long as they could. They didn't have food anymore, so they had to go back to Egypt. And one of the things we notice, like we talked about last week, is that God really is sovereign and in control and providential, and he is directing all of these things behind the scenes. Because remember, when we left off, Joseph told his brothers, "Hey, I'm going to keep Simeon here with me, and if you want him back, you're going to have to bring your younger brother Benjamin." Well, they had gone back to Jacob and told him that. Jacob was not a fan of that idea, so they didn't go back until they had to get food, right? And they knew they had to get food. It was either die or go back to Egypt to get food, but they also knew, because of what Joseph had said, that they couldn't go back without Benjamin, right? So Jacob does not want this to happen. So Judah, who has become the leader really of the brothers in the family at this point, he goes up to his dad and he says this: "Send him with me. We'll be on our way so that we may live and not die, neither we nor you nor our dependents. I will be responsible for him. You can hold me personally accountable. If I do not bring him back to you and set him before you, I will be guilty before you forever." This is a man who is now willing to risk his life and his family fortune for his brother. What a changed man we see. We see a man who had his jealousy had robbed him of so much peace and joy in his life that he was willing to sell his brother, to even kill his brother at one point, but to sell his brother into slavery. And now he's willing to risk his life and his fortune for his brother. What a changed man we see. And so Jacob eventually not only has to trust Judah, but more importantly than that, he has to trust the Lord. Here's what he says in verse 14: "May God Almighty cause the man to be merciful to you," talking to Benjamin, "so that he will release your other brother and Benjamin to your," I'm sorry, he's talking to Judah there, right? And he's praying for God's mercy on the whole situation, because ultimately he knows if Benjamin's going to come back to him, it's going to be the hand of God. You see, Jacob wasn't trusting in Judah, he was trusting in God. And that's important. We are confronted with ideas, with decisions all the time, where we're confronted with, are we going to trust God or are we not? Jacob has to make that decision. Am I going to trust God and let Benjamin go, or am I not? We're all going to die from hunger and starvation. What's my choice here? So he finally lets them go. They meet Joseph. Joseph shows tremendous hospitality, invites them to his house, and says they're going to eat at noon. And as they go back with the steward, they apologize for the fact that last time they went, their silver ended back in their bag, and they have no idea, and they think it's God trying to punish them, so they're wanting to get ahead of that. And hey, we'll give that, and we brought the full amount of that and much more to pay for whatever's next with us. And the steward has better theology than the people of God here. And here's what he says. He says, "May you be well. Don't be afraid. Your God and the God of your father must have put treasure in your bags, because I've received your silver." In other words, I received payment for that. And so this must have been God's doing, or the hand of God. Even he recognizes that God is working behind the scenes. And so then Joseph comes in. The brothers bring him the gift they had carried into the house. They bow to the ground before him. We see his dream that he had has been fulfilled. And then he sees Benjamin. He's overcome with emotion, and he looks at Benjamin and says, "May God be gracious to you, my son." I mean, so Jacob's praying for God's mercy on Benjamin. God's grace, Joseph is putting on Benjamin here, and Benjamin is a highly blessed man in this Genesis 43. And then the last point, as they were eating together, it says that portions were served to them, and Benjamin's portion was 5 times larger than any of theirs. They drank and became drunk with Joseph. So Benjamin was the only one that Joseph blessed with the grace of God, and he gave Benjamin a portion 5 times larger than any of the other brothers. Now, what's going on here? Maybe it really is just Joseph's compassion and emotion towards Benjamin, his full brother, his only full brother. It could be that. Or could it also be that Joseph is still testing the brothers to see if they've changed by putting more, giving more to Benjamin, and see if their jealousy would turn into what it turned into with him? When his father showed favoritism to him, when he got more than the other brothers. Their jealousy caused them to do what they did with Joseph. Is that what was going to happen again? Or would it not? So who knows what Joseph's motives here, but we know he was overcome with emotion when he saw his brother Benjamin. And we see this family working towards peace and reconciliation, and we'll continue with that story next week.